Council workshop agenda for August 7th, 2025. Meetings are broadcast live on Spectrum Cable Channel 1303 and streamed simultaneously on the Town of Bucksport YouTube channel. Call to order.
Good evening. Councillor Therrien.
Present.
Councillor Hare.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Eastman.
Here.
Councillor Rabs.
Here.
Councillor Bishop.
Here.
Councillor Rankin.
Here. Next item is discussion item, fiscal year 2024 audit review with Ron H.R. Smith, managing partner of Smith and Company.
So we recently received our 24 audit in, and I think it's been quite a while since Ron has come in front of the council here. So I thought at the start of our working relationship together, it would be good to all get on the same page in regards to kind of where the town is financially, especially given the significant change that we saw on the revenue side this year of our budget. So Ron is here to kind of give a big picture, sort of, so to speak, and answer any questions.
So I'm Ron Smith, principal with R.H.R. Smith and Company, and we do 2/3 of all the municipalities in the entire state of Maine. I believe we do the same for all the school systems in the state of Maine, all but 2 or 3 counties, so we know a lot about government. And so we've had a relationship with Bucksport, as Jacob said, given some of the transition that you're at, moving from Sue into Jacob, thought it'd be just a good idea, just to come and hit some of the highlights, where you're at, me giving you guys some advice, and doing this for 35 years and, and really just, answering any questions you all may have. And I'd probably start out by saying this, and I can say this because I think we do almost every mill town in the entire state of Maine. You guys put yourself in a great position, when the mill was here, to kind of set yourself up for the withdrawal plan. And I'm going back to the Roger Raymond, era, but certainly, I don't think people realize the significance of a major taxpayer and what it can do, and especially when you don't have that opportunity, anymore. But Bucksport was obviously in a great financial position, once upon a time ago, put itself in a good position, for lack of a better way to say it, weather the storm. And the storms come, storm's gone, and you're still here, and you still got some good financial condition. I can see some of the audits in front of you, and I'd probably start the story going back 3 years, and say since COVID, post-COVID, so 2021. You guys would average somewhere between 90 to 100 days of your operating budget in reserve. And typically that's where you want to be. That's the top shelf. Usually 90 days is the benchmark, our standards say. To the lower end of that is 30 days. And you guys have 24 in front of you. You're going to look and you're going to see that you've got about 60 days of fund balance on that report that you have. But I came here to talk about kind of where you are today. We've looked into the crystal ball, Jacob and I and Rachel, to where you're at, like physically here today. We're knee deep in the 25 audit. So not only can I talk about and kind of say where we started this year, I can tell you about where you ended this year too. And I think that that's probably even more important than information about a year ago. So simply said, back when you started this audit that you had in front of you, you guys, as I said, had about 90 days of fund balance in front of you. And what's that representative of? About $3.5 million. And you'll see that in that document. When you end this year, 6/30/25, and you have that report in front of you this year, you've made a calculated spend down to about 30 days of that fund balance now. And a lot of that's been willfully spent over 3 years, keeping that tax rate stable. You guys have used over $2 million. I think it's 8, 6, and 6, respectively, with the year that just ended with 600 in that year. $2 million, and Jacob says, one of the big things here that really caused kind of that cliff in that budget was the fact that you didn't have that money that you had because you've been using it for the past 3 years. So that really is probably the biggest significant financial change, that I would say that you guys have encountered. You got a lot to show for. You put it into infrastructure. You helped the people out in Bucksport for the past 3 years keeping that mill rate stable. And you just weren't in that position this year to do that. You know, so I understand for the 26 budget, you didn't use any surplus, you know, to do that. Otherwise, it would have compromised even 30 days of your fund balance. But you're right, really kind of on the bottom of that threshold. And as Jacob and I have been talking about, really, I think that that's going to be kind of the conversation for 26, this budget that you're in now, and 27 next year. Is how do you get back to where you were 3 years ago? You're not getting there this year. You're not probably getting there next year. I told Jacob probably a 2-year plan, you know, to do that. And you know, and I think you started that this year. And as Jacob just said, that $1 million, he says 1.4 because there's some other things there, you know, with some other reserve accounts. Like I said, there was a willful plan and a spend down of that money, but you're at probably the bottom of the threshold, which is where our standards say you should be, where we want to see you to be. And what we'd like to do is really kind of press a hard reset, you know, on the town. You guys have really started that with this 26 budget. Going forward, you've got some reserve accounts there that I think probably ought to all roll into that fund balance. You've got some capital reserve accounts. You've got some special reserve accounts. You've got a bunch of grants coming through the town. You got that retaining wall that you've made a significant investment to. So kind of like looking at that individually through this audit for 6/30/25. I think you've got some reserve accounts that have been active for a few years. And your charter says like 3 years, reset it. You know, and that's where we're at here right now, is really just kind of taking a look in the mirror, you know, at what we have. And I think that probably the biggest thing that's going to come out of this June 30/25 audit is us in December bringing that product to you for June 30/25 and recommending a fund balance policy where we say, here's what your minimum is, and I think you're there right now. And here's what your threshold should be, 60 days, getting back there, okay? I'm not sure you're going to get there on June 30/26, but I think you'll be close. I think you'll be there on June 30/27. Question is what happens over 60 days? What happens when you have that much money? Do you use any for tax relief? Do you put any back into your capital reserve accounts that you've been spending down, you know, on infrastructure? And the answer is yes, you know, to all of those. And you've got a 5-year capital plan. I'd probably revisit that for sure, you know, if I was the town of Bucksport. But kind of the message is, I think through June 30/25, while you still got that fund balance, hitting a reset, reloading, you know, really coming up with, you know, some re-editing of your current plan and your current reserves and what they look at. They're all in there. Some of those have been spent in 2025. Like I say, we're up to date right now with where you are, where we think you're going to end this year, June 30/25. And I think now is a time to kind of look at the reserves, identify capital. There's a big need. You clearly got some other special reserves for, you know, for various ordinances and some other things that I'm sure were adopted at town through town meeting, charter. Those can't go away. So we keep those, but there's some that have been inactive for a long time. You've got some money sitting in places, you know, clearly that I think probably should be looked at and reappropriated is the best way I can say it according to your charter. You got that retaining wall that's $500,000 sideways on your financial statements because the DOT is going to be sending you your money this year. Probably some things that you could do. And one of the things that I said to Jacob is I'd really consider exercising one of those Section 9 in your charter about borrowing that $300,000, you know, and spreading that out over maybe 5 years. I think that would give you some time. I always say if you're going to make long-term investments into infrastructure, consider borrowing. You typically do. The big thing that you have now left on your general fund, I think it was some road project construction that you did. You got some sewer debt, you know, that's paid for by the sewer. Other than that, there's really not a lot of debt. A lot of that debt's fallen off over the next couple of years, you know. So now's the time to kind of use that. And what happens when you did a lot of these projects and when you spend down that fund balance for tax relief, $2 million plus in the past few years. So you go back to that audit right there, where our fund balance is down 60 days. So what's that do? That really hurts your cash flow. It really does. You made a calculated spend down of your cash flow too. And that hence the tax anticipation note. that you have. So I think that's probably working with Jacob, coming up with a plan, really kind of putting that 25 product in front of you that sets the baseline for you. And then saying, hey, okay, here we are. Here's what you got today as a 6/30/25. Where do you want to go? Okay. Do you need this reserve anymore? Okay. Do you want to put, maybe you need more in roads. Okay. There's a lot of money in infrastructure coming down in roads. I suggest that would be a good one, to consider, doing out there. So just things like that. The numbers don't lie, and like I say, you had the money. You made some choices with it. One of the choices was to help the taxpayers for the past 2 years, on Bucksport. And that came at a price. But now, I don't think you can afford to do that over the next couple of years. I think you got to get back, to where you were 2 years ago. So,
First off, I disagree with, we made the decision about where some of this money went, because the voters of this town, some of them are sitting here in this room.
Mhm.
The big ticket items, they came before the voters and they said yes. And there was a sense of complacency that was there. They voted yes to go forward with these walls,
Mhm.
okay, that cost us hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. They made the decision for the Village Partnership, which is a $10 million project. And they're already starting on the street here. The surveyors are out here. It's coming,
Mhm.
okay? And that overall cost is $10 million. There's a local share that's gonna be $1 million. I've got the two bullets you just rattled off here, 2-year plans. We gotta get the fund balance up to 60 days instead of 30 and visit a 5-year capital plan. But the voters and their complacency put us in this position. That's the way I feel sitting here right now. We've got to come up with another $1 million for this Village Partnership plan.
Yeah.
And
My thoughts are you don't have that money anymore without really compromising.
we're gonna
your
have to
financial-
borrow it.
Exactly, and that's
We're
my whole
broke.
point. Yeah.
Okay, we're broke. There's no way else to put it.
Yeah. And rates, good news is, well, at least I can say this, good news is I hope the rates are coming down, as I understand that they are and will be, and especially into infrastructure projects. I don't think you're gonna have a choice but to borrow, and I'm here to deliver that message to you loud and clear for sure.
I have one last question to interrupt you, but with some of this stuff that we're looking ahead of us, is there a financial practice that we can put in place that would pause? The voters have come along and said, we want this $10 million because 90%, 10% on the town.
Mhm.
And it's started now, but is there any financial way we can put a pause on that for a year or 2 years to?
So the answer would be yeah, especially with math. As new information comes before you. Certainly with math, I've seen that happen many times in my 35 years. Typically with whether or not it be for industrial parks or for new town offices or downtown renovations and improvements. But I'm still a little unclear about this $10 million project. I don't know. When you say the voters say that they want it, have they said, "Hey, we want to do this project. Go borrow $9 million, and we'll figure out how we're going to come up with the other $1 million." I just don't know enough about the logistics of
No,
this.
we don't, the split is the feds pay 8, the state
80.
pays 1, and we
Yeah.
pay 1.
Gotcha. So the question is going to be is how you're going to come up with your $1 million. Right.
And I think Rich can speak a little bit to this, where's 2029 a realistic timeframe? Is that the timeframe we're looking at?
When it was sent to the voters, it was sent that we were going to borrow the money for that $1 million. That's how the ballot question was read.
Right, but you,
But no, so they're finishing up now with their surveying. We should have a report by 2026. The money is coming from we approached Senator King and Senator Collins for this year, so we'll have the answer in 27,
and so do the work in 28, is that likely?
28, yeah.
Well, I'm going to assume the works condition on those earmarks still coming through because I've seen 2 fire barns get nixed to
Yeah.
answer that question too in the past year because the earmarks didn't come through.
Right.
So, and I think I still hear that this project's predicated on those
Funded.
earmarks coming through. And let me just tell you, any earmark right now that was on the table, I'm not sure is an earmark that's still on the table. I've seen a lot of stuff being threatened, especially in school systems. So the people would like this project done, but they wanted this project done, $10 million, under the, understanding that 9 million was coming from outside the town of so that changes everything. So like I say, I've seen 2 fire barns, one at about $2.5 million, one at about $4.5 million lose or have their congressional earmarks cut. Those fire barns stopped right in their tracks right now as we speak. So you got a few years. We'll see what happens to the earmarks. There's a lot of people not named Bucksport out there waiting and in a similar position. I can attest to that right now about some of their future projects right now that are hitting in a holding pattern right now. I get a lot of planes circling, their towns. Why? Because the funding hasn't landed. So clearly, if I'm a voter in the town and I was under the impression we were going to have this project at $10 million, and 90% of it was funded outside Bucksport taxpayer dollars, with 10% the other 10% coming from boring. If I found out next year, the year after, that's not 10% Bucksport anymore, it's 50%, 60, 70, or nothing, yeah, you've changed the whole playing field for sure. Because why? Because your funding, your proposal now has blown up. And I've seen a lot of proposals, and I'm working with a lot of proposals that have blown up right now because the earmarks aren't there or suspended and delayed. So that would be no different, Paul, here in this case. No different. So yeah. And I just heard a detail here that they were going to borrow the money. That's good, because I think that is something you'd have to do anyway.
Sure.
So, and in a couple of years, I fully suspect those rates are probably going to be where they were 2 years ago. So,
What else do you have for us, India?
But we'll wait till the end for public comment, or?
Okay, well, I was gonna ask a question. What are we talking about? You're just surveying for what?
Downtown Main Street project,
Why?
that one that was voted on
Was it last year or the year before?
2 years ago,
2 years ago.
to redo all of Main Street.
It's gonna
Okay.
start at the bridge and it's gonna go to the old mill.
Yeah.
They're
That-
already surveying right now.
And that's why I think however you move forward with a plan, move forward with a budget, and move forward with financing, because right now that's still up in the air. And I think that I would take a hard pause on a $10 million project for sure.
I mean, I think the voters passed it because of the split. that
Sure,
was,
absolutely.
Proposed.
Things change.
Yep,
If it went over the million, that's a whole different.
it would be a different conversation, yeah.
So just other things there. I think that was your question. Marina, that you got a lot of money invested in the infrastructure. There's not a lot of operating capital there when you look at it. You're heavy in capital equity. You're not heavy in operational equity. And I know that there's been some movement in rates, from what we do. We do a lot of oceanfront marinas and things like that. Probably ought to take a rate at your looks. And I'm sure there's a lot of people with boat slips out there going to hate to hear this, but time to probably take a hard look at that one too, for sure. No doubt about it. No doubt. So, just other things in there. The retaining wall was certainly a conversation piece. And one of the things that I told Jacob is I would be in a heartbeat right now as that thing comes to an end. And once you settle up with the Department of Transportation, I'd consider probably boring against that retaining wall, because clearly you used your money to finance that. So, yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I don't wanna interrupt your presentation at all when you're done.
I'm here for you. You can let them rip. I'm here. It's like I say, if you've got something you want to step in and I hit a
Yeah.
subject or
So in
no.
the past, general maneuvering, we took a lot of money out of capital improvement for different departments and we rolled things over into operating expenses for something that we did, for an example, we moved our cruisers for the police department. Instead of spending the money and buying them, owning them, we put them into operating and we started leasing them. We've done the same thing with other trucks and other equipment, so on and so forth. On that side of things, our capital expenditures are down because of that, but our operating expenses are
Are
up.
up.
How do you feel our operating expenses line up based on population with other populations throughout the
I
state?
need to probably take a hard look at that if you're trying to compare, like Bucksport to another community. I always say that's a terrible idea, but as far as like
Why?
debt and things like why, because everybody's different. 35 years of me just saying that you take care of your roads, the next community doesn't. You know, I don't, many reasons, you know, I could cite for that. But as far as that, I think that there could be some other comparisons done. And I think probably, Steve, the real talking point now is you used a lot of those reserves to pay for what they were intended for. And that's what I meant. Take a hard look at that reset. And maybe it's time to shift, you know, the responsibility of how you're paying those debt payments, those lease payments and all that. If they're coming out of operations, maybe they come out of reserves. Don't know. But we actually talked about that a lot today, you know, about really kind of cause and effect. And that's why I say, look at all your reserves, because some of them have been inactive for a couple of years, okay? So if you're heavy into public safety and you're leasing cruisers or whatever it is, well, if you're not using $110,000 sitting in some other equipment reserve for recreation, maybe you shift that money over to where it is you're using. That's what I mean, that hard reset. You know, I think we'll bring you some math to that, and that'll give me a chance to answer your question for 6/30/25.
But do you shudder when you hear the word leasing? Does it?
No, don't shut it off.
Because
No.
there are other municipalities close by that are leasing dump trucks. We're gonna be coming up on needing some fire equipment that you can lease ambulances and.
I don't shut it at all, as long as there's a non-appropriation clause, meaning if it doesn't get funded at town meeting, that lease and that equipment goes away.
That it's just getting
Yeah, just make sure you got the right language in it.
proper payment schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm more interested, what are you leasing and who's paying for it? Who's paying for it? Where's it coming from? You know, and if you shift the burden from capital to operations, you know, I'm not sure that was equitable, and I would just want to look at the math, you know, on that. You know, and if there's other, for lack of a better way to say it, reserves, you know, that exist out there that aren't being utilized or shelved, you know, for lack of a better word, because why? You don't have a plan yet, okay? Maybe it's time to reappropriate that money somewhere else where it's needed until you do have a plan. Revisit your plan. That plan ought to change every 365 days a year. And if it doesn't, that's a bad plan. That's a bad plan. Too much things can happen in the world of government now, especially for oceanfront communities. So, too much things.
Elaborate on that, especially for oceanfront.
Well, you got a sewer. Your water well, I'll give you a perfect case in point, wastewater. That's an expensive phone call if something goes on with it. Our marina gets wiped out, okay? Yeah, we run $200,000-ish, you know, through our marina there. Well, guess what? Mother Nature comes. I've seen 4 marinas get wiped out in the past 2 years, and one of them at a price tag of about $11 million. Where's that money gonna come from? So just things like that. When you run that kind of a business, a big lakefront resort type community. So it's different. That's why I say don't compare yourself to to somebody else. You're Bucksport. You know what's going on here. You know what do we need? You know where are we deficient? Roads is always the big one. That's the big one that I've been talking about. Roads is a big one. So I'd argue you'll never have enough road money. But there's a lot of money out there that's kind of sitting idle, you know, because of all the freezes of all these earmarks that exist out there. That Build Back America package passed in November of 2021 now. Okay, we had $2.5 billion in the state. We still got a lot of money in the state. Not until some things get figured out with this administration. You know, we're just starting to see some of that money get released again. And it's usually the bond bank now that's releasing it, or, you know, through the Clean Water, you know, the drinking app. But when you're on an oceanfront community, price tags always go up. They always go up.
Question related to your confidence that we'll get to the 60-day fund balance.
More than confidence.
What's driving your confidence in that?
Me for 35 years and going to this rodeo all the time. So yeah, this is an easy fix to get there. You've already started it. You didn't use any surplus. You 1.5 million. You made some hard decisions this year. 1.5 million, $4 million-ish, you know, of revenues that didn't surface in your 2026 budget. There's my confidence level right there, already going up exponentially. So. That's
tough
huge.
Budget season for sure.
What's that? I guarantee it was. It's probably tough when the people got their tax bills. And what I would just say to you and to the people in Bucksport, you've kept that tax rate artificially low using $2 million for the past 3 years. So $2 million. That's probably 4 mills, 3 years.
I was going to ask you, can you transfer that to the mill rate?
I'd say it's probably closer to 4 because we're going back 2 and 3 years ago. 2 and 3 budgets ago.
So maybe, okay,
It's about what, 600 grand a mil?
It was back.
Yeah, so that's why I say,
that's an interesting way to look at it.
listen,
Yeah.
35 years, and this is an easy fix for Bucksport.
Yeah.
Discipline. And that's why I say, reset, look at what you got. You still got money. Look at it, you know? So, and like I say, I think that these projects that you have, you know, here, you know, right now, financing isn't a bad option. It's just not. It creates opportunities. And typically, you've made choices to pay for money, whatever the public wants or doesn't want. You've made choices for what they want, typically out of your back pocket for the past 2 or 3 years, okay? That kept the mill rate down. You can't afford to do that anymore. So it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable because you used $2 million in 3 years.
Are we still legally bound at 5% is the only overage that we can appropriately budget for statewide?
You're talking about overlay, correct?
Yeah, is that-
Yeah,
is
that's
that-
that's a state law.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we're still at 5%, I should know that.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, so the answer is yes, but that's not a Bucksport thing, that's
It's a state, yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many years do we have left on paying for our roads?
2? I would have said 3 to 4. I thought it was 2028 or 29. I actually looked at your hold there. Well, listen, stand by. I'll give you an official answer right now.
Okay, what page are you on?
I am going to flip 2 page. You're talking about your roads?
Yeah.
I'm going to flip, so I was right. So page 39. And that will be paid off in 2029. And you've got a lot of things coming off the books too over the next 2 or 3 years. Smaller, but still probably 800 to $1 million. 800,000 to $1 million.
I was just wondering if you could elaborate on you talked about the marina, being a kind of a liability. It's not a big moneymaker, and there's a lot of risk as far as if something happens, it can get destroyed easily. We've put a lot of infrastructure money into it to get it back up to 100%. This is something you'd recommend leasing out to a private company or selling to a private company, or what do you think? How do other towns do it?
Well, here's what I'm sure of. Other towns don't lease to other private companies for many reasons, you know, and usually it's because of the owners, and they'll go privatizing, you know, it usually never ends well. You've got an oceanfront community to your north that said our marina will never be self-sufficient. You know, is the best way I can say it. We're gonna have to put a lot of money into the marina. What'd they do? They rolled it into a department just like any other department of the town, because the taxpayers were floating the bill. And at one point in time, when it got up to probably close to $1 million, you know, of a deficit, you know, it was like, there's no way we're gonna be able to turn this around. There's no way we're gonna be able to pass the costs there. You know, we're gonna look for other options, bringing, you know, charters, bringing cruise ships into our port, things like that to subsidize, you know, the marina. But they bought it in under recreation, and they bought it in under the town department to pay for it. Why? Because there was no path to self-sustaining that marina. And that was it. And actually, when they were negotiating the insurance company with Maine Municipal Association, Maine Municipal Association said, this thing is not self-sufficient too as well. Your rates aren't going to get any cheaper. You've had 4 major claims in the past 3 years. You know, so there was a lot of factors, you know, that weighed into the decision. And that's why I say, I don't ever if somebody said oceanfront community, marina, hey, self-sustaining, no way. To me, it's like the equivalent of an ambulance department, wastewater department, things like that. A necessary service, a necessary addition to who you are in your community, but not to the point where somebody's going to convince me that they're cost effective. I have yet to see a marina that I would say there's something that you can go make a lot of money out in the world of government. They just don't exist out there for many reasons, many reasons.
Basically, if they break even, that's a win.
It's a huge win, huge win. And it's a huge win for the community too, because what it does, So
Far from breaking even.
you are far from break. And like I said, you invest, and that's why you're sideways, because you have that big investment that you made into the marina. You know, and there, the financial math and algorithms say you ain't paying that back anytime soon. And that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make to you right now. So it's one of the things I would pay attention, certainly too. And rolling that in and considering, hey, you know what? If this thing's not going to be able to sustain itself, let's just face reality today. Let's roll it in as a department, of the town. So, because clearly that's who's paying, so who's going to subsidize it.
Privatizing is a bad idea.
I think it's a terrible idea.
Okay.
That's just me being me. Terrible idea.
What I wanted to hear.
Yeah. But you might not have a choice if the people say, hey, we don't want to pay for it. We don't like your budget. We don't want to pay for that marina as part of your budget. So you may not have a choice. But there are many other options before you privatize it. When you privatize it, you will lose control. So.
I mean, it feels like a town conversation on
Huge.
on what we're gonna look like now, what we want now for services.
When so this marina that I'm talking about, typically when I walk into a room and it's gonna be a heated debate, it's usually about public safety, police department, fire department. I walked into the biggest room of people I've ever seen because of that marina. It was a hot topic. People, and they talked about privatizing. People didn't want to lose that marina, and they didn't care what it was going to cost them. So.
We're here tonight talking about the audit that you completed, but does RHR Smith and Company, do you have, going forward, this year, town manager is going to we provide fire and EMS services to 2 neighboring towns. Does your company have financial algorithms that we could engage you with and the town manager to see where we are
absolutely.
versus where we should be going?
Then we can give you other communities to compare it to, for sure. Then you can start talking about population per capita, like how close your nearest fire support is and things like that, for sure, interlocal agreements. So we can give you, what'd you say, fire and what?
I'm sorry?
I could probably send you 30 of those, right now, so that you could probably get an understanding and probably more importantly, put you in touch with the communities.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Ambulance is a big one right now. Regionalization, people they can't afford it anymore. I mean, ambulance is probably one of the worst government propositions of running a service. It's not a money maker. Anybody that tells you it is lying. I'm telling you right now. Me being me for 35 years, it is not a money maker.
So, are ambulance making us money then or not?
Well, based upon the run, so let me just say, your ambulance, if it's breaking even, that's a good day. I'm just to say the same thing for the marina.
In the past, our ambulance has offset our cost of our personnel.
Yeah, it's the cost of the personnel. That's a good day.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good day.
Is that
But
right?
if runs are down, and are you saying to me, is that a model for success for a business? No.
It isn't.
it's
It isn't
not.
a municipal end though.
What, in a municipal, and it's break even in a municipal world is a good day. It's a good day. So, and that's why I say, when somebody says the word ambulance, the work that it takes for a good day is a lot of work.
But that's still the case with us now. We're still breaking even. We're still
I
bringing in
would
enough
say-
money to pay for it.
So a couple of things. Let me look. I'll tell you exactly where I'm gonna look. I'm going 2-page. 2-page. You guys got your product in front of you? I'm going to 2 pages. I don't have my glasses on, so bear with me.
I can't share.
What's that?
I can't share mine.
I
Sorry.
might need 'em. So I'm going to page 80. I'm looking halfway down. So I'm looking clearly, because Bucksport has subscriptions, right? To residents, charge your residents anything? So ambulance, other revenues, I thought you had a subscription program. Okay, so, sorry. But if you look down, you got the user fees for ambulance, and then you got the other revenues. So you generated last year in those two areas, 730, and my glasses are failing me, 700,000, 700, little north of 700,000. Everybody see where I'm getting that money, that math? Now go to page, bear with me. Well, it's gonna be hard to break it out here, but we can get you that answer pretty quickly. 81. So you got EMS protection in with fire. So somewhere in there, my $700,000, we're hoping there's no more than $700,000 of expenses in that. So, and then my next question is gonna be, you got insurance in there, you got benefits, you got other insurances elsewhere, you factor in overhead, into rescue as well, and that would just be follow-up questions I would have to get to your question. Some people just put the cost of the ambulance, the personnel, the ambulance itself, maybe debt service, if you get a new ambulance, but they don't factor in insurances, overhead, and other things
Well,
like
it gets
that.
down into the weeds. It's the cost of supplies on that ambulance.
Exactly.
and-
Who's
and
paying for that?
Certifications of our paramedics, and it just goes on
Fire
and
paying
on.
for that for ambulance paying it for a fire, and like I say, it just tells me that there's probably some cross pollination
When
between
you
fire and EMS.
get the information for ambulance, could you also do the same for public safety, like
Like police?
Police as well. It'd be helpful to sort of see where we are in comparison to same population.
Sure. Yeah, and again, don't compare it to population. I'm gonna tell you, compare it to, you got any other police departments around you that you got a local agreement with the municipality, then we're getting into the real conversation. If you got the only police department in other towns and you perhaps are providing them support, as well, and maybe have contracts with other towns, that changes the whole conversation.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I just walked into a buzzsaw, about 2 months ago at town meeting, and I will never forget that. That was an interesting one. It was all about police department and our cost of police departments to other things, and I wish I would have got a little bit more briefed, on the conversation at town meeting, because people were talking about, for lack of a better word, apples and oranges. They weren't talking about apples and apples, so.
That makes sense, thank you.
Yeah, and they were trying to get rid of that police department, so, they almost did, they almost did, so. There was a lot of conversation and a lot of bad math, a lot of bad comparison. I'm like, how can you do that? How can you compare that? I don't live in this town, and that's bad math, so.
Tell me, in this book, make sure I looked at it right, make sure I had the right page. Tell me where we're at right now for actual liquid cash reserves.
It's in a couple of places. So you wanna look on page, and again, we just updated that as of today.
Yep.
But if you were to look on page 16 is the big one,
Yep.
okay? And you'll see it. There's all your cash. You'll see your retaining wall and some other math, the marina that I was talking about there, that's got all the equity sideways. It's part of that number in brackets of $700,000. So on page 16 is the big place, okay? And you'll see, on page 16, everybody says, hey, our equity, do we have it? Is it sitting in our checkbook? In Bucksport's case, no, it really isn't, just because that investment you made into the retaining wall,
Yep.
the investment that you've had in the marina that you made that you haven't paid for yourself back, the money that you used to spend down your surplus, and that's my whole point. If you looked on page 16
Yep.
and look at that second number up from the bottom, that 2.2,
Yep.
the year before it was 3.5. That's 90 days. And you had close to $3 million sitting in that bank account, first two lines.
Yep.
Not anymore. And that's because of the $2 million you used to spend down for your tax rate.
Yep.
So, yeah, cause and effect.
Okay, good, I was hoping I was wrong on that one, but that's nice, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out, that I saw that.
I think you'll lighten your reserves too. That's why I take a hard look at that, for sure. All your capital, take a hard look. That's where you really, I think that's where the rubber's gonna meet the road over the next couple of years for you and your guys, for this town. So, yeah. Gonna be a long line waiting for some of this money that's supposed to be out there.
Yeah.
I just want you guys in the best position possible, so. And if somebody says, and this is just me, I got no dog in this fight, right? But you got a $10 million project, you know, I'm sure that there's been a lot of thought and effort to put, and I'm not trying to minimize that project. But if something happens tomorrow, okay, and money becomes available, and it's something of dire need for this town, I'm thinking a road, I'm thinking a culvert, I'm thinking of something of dire need that could really impact the level of service that you got, okay? Are your priorities gonna change? Especially if you know the money's available? Of course they are. That's all I'm saying. If your plan can't change daily, that's a bad plan.
It's clear we have to take a hard look at our priorities moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that $10 million project would be at the top of the list, and I'm not
I'm
not dismissing it, I'm just looking at the investment.
Probably agree with you.
Yeah, that is a big
You know,
investment.
it's very different than it was when they voted on it too, and I think our
And so are the
taxpayers are pretty
times,
reasonable.
so are the times.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and again, I'm sure, like I say, would you have even voted on it if 90 cents on that dollar wasn't coming outside the town of Bucksport? So, would you even have voted
That
on
was
it?
the driver.
That was
Right?
the driver.
So, these fire barns, they ain't fire barns anymore, they're thoughts now because of the earmarks that are being held up.
Makes sense.
Ron, you mentioned that essentially the first step in getting back to the 60-day mark was eliminating any sort of revenue offsets from this budget. That was a good first step.
Great first
although
step.
Very difficult first step. Moving forward, what are some other things that we should keep on our radar that could help
I
us
think looking at
succeed
some
in
of
this?
these, some of these financial investments that you guys made into infrastructure, and, you know, the possibility of going back and borrowing against them as opposed to using your own back pocket, we've talked about that. You know, I'd be on the phone with your bank tomorrow. I've been to that rodeo too. Banks will have no problem doing that. Just things like that to put the money back in your pocket until you can do what you're starting to do right now. Just rethink how you're doing business. So that's it. So you made a conscious choice to spend it down. Let's make a conscious choice to put some of it back for sure. And I think that that's going to be even more discipline for you guys over the next few years. So discipline, it really is. Keep it coming. I really thoroughly enjoy these conversations. I really, truly do.
You're making a really horrible conversation kind of fun.
Yeah, listen, I'm not sure I came here to make it even a horrible conversation. I just came here to say, be aware, and this is so easy to get back there, but I think that there's gotta be some rethinking,
Yeah.
you know, your planning, for sure. I might even start with that project, so.
So 2 months ago, our town manager at the time sat there and told us that our reserves were 1.3 million. It was in a public meeting here during a council meeting. That is not the number that is in this report.
I just don't know where there's a lot of reserves all throughout here. I mean, there's 3 reserves I'm looking at right here. Out of that 2.2, 563, there's like an education reserve in there.
Yeah.
Your revenue sharing reserve is in there. You know, the problem is, I mean, again, I just don't know in what context. You know, she said reserves, but here's what I know. A lot of these reserves that you're looking on here,
Yeah.
they were allocated in 2025. I saw those like today.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm up to date on 25, so that's why I say we need to take a hard look at your finances in the mirror and make some edits. But I just don't know, you know what, under what context that was made. And I'm more than happy to understand. I just don't know. You got reserves, but you also had to spend that again in 25.
Right.
So, and you didn't do that in 26.
Ron, we're gonna let some of the public provide some questions. Bill, do you wanna come up and?
Yeah. Where is the $8 million? I was told with the town is in debt, $8 million. Is that true?
I don't know who told you that.
I don't know where that came from.
Okay, so but that would come from the rumor mill? And the $10 million you could spend on the front, the roads of the town to beautify Bucksport?
That's not true either.
That's not true.
No, I mean, what we're describing here is a project that the voters approved. It was a $10 million project, which the town is responsible for 10% of that.
Okay, but that's not gonna happen. right?
We don't know.
You don't know.
I mean, the state's moving forward. That's why they're talking about engineers on the streets.
Okay.
It's happening.
But if they did it, Bill, that would be I think it's a little under 900 something thousand, a little under $1 million of Bucksport money,
Okay.
1 million of state money,
8 million.
8 million of federal money.
Okay.
But we do, I mean, as Ron is stating, there's no
Yes.
assurance that that's gonna happen at this point.
All right. So we
I
might
just
let-
don't know about the 8 million. I don't know where that's coming.
I don't know where they come from either. That's the rumor mill.
Yeah, I can't
I
speak to
can't
that.
dwell on rumor mills,
Nope.
man. I won't get
Okay.
anywhere. So.
All right, I can sit back down. now.
Okay.
All right.
Anyone else?
So here's what you didn't hear me say. Gloom and doom. You got money, okay? But what you got, time to take a look at it right now. Protect it. Come up with a policy, so that you have limits is the best way I can say it. That's the beauty of the policy. You have limits. But you got money. You got money in other areas, non-general fund, I call them general governmental services related. Look at it, and I think it's probably time to reallocate some of those efforts for sure. And that's one of the things I told Jacob that we should be doing during this 6/30/25 audit. Take a look in the mirror. What you look like 4 or 5 years ago, you don't look like today. So you need to do some housekeeping for sure. So
What, in your experience, what is the most common or best way to shuffle a marina in under a different department?
I would just do exactly that. We can run the math for you, and it's going to show up just like it would fire, rescue, police, all those departments there as well. Yeah, I think it's just it's inevitable. So it's just me being me. It's inevitable. So I think it's there now. So, and when you make investments, and you make investments for lack of a better way that are attached to something that looks like it could pay for itself, no way. No way.
Rich has a question.
Go ahead, Rich, I could see,
In
sorry.
2021, the marina borrowed a hefty sum of money from the town with the fact that because we were an independent department at that time, we weren't under the town umbrella. We weren't supposed to be getting money from the community. And we realized then that the marina was never going to be able to pay that money back on a 1% note to the town. So when we came back, what we did was ask to make it its own department. And that's what I was understanding, that since 2022, the marina has been a department and no longer a solo entity.
It's still an enterprise account. It's not a department of the town. It's still essentially a business. just-
Enterprise fund, proprietary fund in our governmental world. Yep.
Meaning that it's supposed to be funded by
Itself.
user fees itself.
So the last update that we did with the brand new docks that were just built at 250,000, that came out of waterfront reserves. That should not have happened. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know anything about that.
That would be in your 2025
Yeah,
report.
yeah. So I'm just not smart about that. I see some money for waterfront, but I'm just not smart enough to talk about the reserves for 25.
But what I'm saying is, if it was still an enterprise, how should that money have been allocated then? Should that have just not happened until we got the fees from the users, or is it still okay to borrow? I'm just trying to figure out if it's.
Enterprise funds can have reserves. General fund can have reserves for enterprise funds. But moral of the story is, whatever your reserve funds are, detach them from your marina in this case, and let the marina stand as a department of its general fund. So, because you're supporting it. So, and clearly. There you go. That's just we can keep talking about this forever. I mean, this is about as easy, for me to just kind of understand, to kind of support. That's something we probably ought to look like for budgeting purposes for 27. Yeah. That's not going to change. And that's the problem, to dig out of that. Sounds like forgiven loan and and just things like that. Yeah, no way.
Can you, well, not to belabor the marina point, but unpack what what the projected saving advantages to voting it into the town?
I don't think there is a projected savings. I just think they're putting in the town as the reality
And
of
then the
that marina.
taxpayers sort of are paying.
They're paying for it now.
Yeah.
They're paying for it now.
They're
They're
already
cash
paying.
flowing it for it right now. Think about it. The cash flow, you have a cash flow problem. You use $2 million, okay? That put you in a cash flow problem. You use $400,000 on your marina that was supposed to get paid back. That puts you into a cash flow problem. All these things are adding up, over the past few years, and that's why we're here. And 24 really kind of was the look at me year. So 25 is going to be the okay. You've looked at me. Now what are you going to do year? And that's really where I'm at right now.
There isn't a savings, but how it is funded would look different.
Lot different.
We still have offsets from user fees, but there would be any difference
Yeah.
would be funded.
Picture the same way. Picture your same way as we were talking about the ambulance rescue. Same concept. Same exact concept. Same. A lot of times, rescue departments are special revenue funds or enterprise funds. So then you start to find out, well, the benefits aren't in there, and they share supplies with the fire department and things like that. Next thing you know, that break even is $200,000 sideways, $250,000 sideways because other common costs aren't in there. So that's why I say if this is kind of masking that right now, and I would look at your marina just like your rescue department.
I don't know if you can speak to this, but on page 9, it says that for business type activities, total expenses decreased by 18%.
Yeah, well, that's your marina and your sewer department for sure, and that's your management discussion. So I'm assuming you're in your MD&A, and that's your section, not mine. So we don't issue an opinion on that. I can just speak to it just as you want me to, and that just tells me sewer expenses and marina expenses went down. And the marina expenses went down because if my memory serves me, you bought floats the year before or something else that made a significant investment. So there's a big piece of that math right there.
And the sewer rate went up, and that doesn't offset from this budget, correct?
This or the next, it would be.
This what?
We're in right
When we're
now.
at 26?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause that was stagnant for a very long time.
I'll tell you, financially, you got a baseline to work with, and like I say, look, just change your plan. That's the message I bring. Good news, got the money. Got the money with the caveat, protect it. Protect it.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, so with the marina, how far does it actually go in the hole for the year? Compared to what the town is spending on the marina, compared to what it brings into money into the town?
A couple $100,000?
All depends, and that, like I said, that's a tough question. Depends on the year. A year that you go by $300,000 worth of floats, or the year that you do nothing, which is usually $10,000 to $20,000 deficit. So which year?
In 24, was it 70?
70 was in the whole 70, but I think it was like 10 or 11 for the year. So like for the year, like revenues over expenses. But again, the year before, it went to 70 in the whole, like 40 the year before, just because of the investments that you were making the past 2 years and some of the infrastructure out
So
there.
like 40, 70, 10 so far, the last 3.
Last 3 years, yeah, last 3 years, yeah. Yeah.
I have another question too.
Go ahead.
How does the town figure whether leasing, equipment, how does that figure out money-wise compared to buying the equipment and using it? Trade-in value, buying new police cruisers or leasing them? Is it a money savings for the town?
Well, we started doing that in
It was last year.
20.
Last year. We were losing piles of money on the trade-in, cause we'd buy them, a cruiser, for instance, was $58,000 equipped, and then when it was done, at the end of its life cycle, we'd be lucky to get 2,500 to $5,000 out of it. It was terrible, but then for the lease, we got twice the product for half the money. Leasing for 2 cruisers was approximately 26,000.
And that's
So
the
it was
police who
cost effective.
It was very cost effective.
It was definitely a savings to the
Yeah,
town,
That's
yeah.
good.
Yeah, especially, yeah, huge on the operating side of things.
Leases are becoming bigger.
Yeah, there's a couple of other towns that are doing it, I think, is it Bar Harbor?
Yeah, that's where everyone.
But
that's
where-
but it'll also depend on which municipality.
Yeah, and not comparing
Like I
towns
say,
to
some
towns.
of the municipalities, it's just the opposite, so.
Yeah.
Counties, just the opposite with sheriff cruises, so.
Now, did that work out as far as the municipal garage, their equipment they lease too?
We haven't started doing that yet, but it is something that we're discussing and looking into.
Okay. Thank you.
Even
Good
work
question.
trucks, I thought we did with some work trucks.
No, we talked about it, Luke, but we didn't, it wasn't funded.
Just to hit on that a little bit more on the trucks, it's best, the leasing for us with the trucks could be a very good move for us, because when we buy some trucks in the past, we bought the cheapest and we wound up with all those Max Forces that were junk. We literally paid at the time just over $100,000 for those. And in today's money, you're lucky to get rid of those for anything over 10,000 is a gift. And if it runs. So if you lease them and it's junk, you just turn it in and get another one. So there's major investments we've made in the past that would be in our capital improvement line that sunk us, because we bought the wrong brand and we bought junk, not knowing that, because they were new at the time. It takes a year or two to figure out that those are junk. So for us, the risk versus reward on the lease end, that's on that scale, could prove out to be very helpful.
You can get out of a lease, you can't get out of a bond.
Yeah. So.
How many police cruisers you lease now?
We're at 2? No, we're
No, more than that, I think he's at,
I would've said 5, 4 or 5.
5. 5.
And how many do we own?
We own 2, I think.
Yeah, you lease
Do
more
we
than
own
you
the
want.
animal control one?
we do own that one.
Yeah.
We have one,
think we
we own
own-
with animal control,
Animal control,
Probably chiefs.
deputy chief.
so we own 3,
We own 3.
and the canine. And the
So how
canine.
many do we have?
We own 4.
The canine's a lease.
The canines at least?
Canine's a lease.
Okay, so we own 3, and then lease.
We lease another 4 of them.
4, so 7.
7 in total, I believe.
How many police officers do we have in town now,
11,
full-time?
yes. I asked the police officer, how many you have?
Yeah.
She said 11.
Mhm.
Why do we need 11? The town of Bucksport, Brewer only has 12 full-time police.
It's all a shift structure, honestly. If you wanna make it a safety thing, you have to have 2 officers on duty at all times if you wanna make it safe. And in order to do that, you have to have enough cruisers for them each to be in. And a lot of the call volume that we experience here really doesn't have a lot to do with us in the town of Bucksport. Geographically, we're located between Bangor, Brewer, and Belfast. And I can personally tell you, as a police officer here for 14 years, that a lot of our problems that will wind up at that Irving down there come from Bangor and Brewer, that aren't our problems that we wind up dealing with.
And you just absolutely hit the model on the head for the safety issue too, for sure. They actually had one of the people from New England come to speak at this town meeting exactly on that safety matter.
2:30 in the morning, I dealt with it alone,
Okay?
plenty of times. I lasted 14 years. My power meter got burned. You need 2 guys on 24/7 if you're gonna make it sustainable and safe, without getting the town involved in a lawsuit.
Okay?
And including the deputy chief, there's 10.
Yep.
10 full-time.
And now that we have that structure, let me elaborate on this. Now that we have that structure, we're able to cut down on overtime. Because without that structure before, we were a training ground, and the last 3 years, we lost Did we lose 4 or 5 police officers in the last 3 years? We're talking a 3-year cycle here,
Other
right?
municipalities,
Right.
yeah, 3 years.
So in a 3-year cycle, I think we lost 5.
4 anyway.
It's two.
So the money that we spent upfitting police officers, putting them through the academy and all these things so they could go work other places
Yeah,
that had the shift structure that we just developed. We now have a comparable, safe, sustainable shift structure that allows us to actually retain people instead of purging money out, which is what we were doing. But we just adopted this. Just months ago, adopted this new shift schedule and got us fully staffed. So it's gonna take a little bit of time before you see it in your paperwork.
We had similar issues with fire where we were losing firefighters because of our shifts.
Correct. And that will cut down on those because it'll cut down on overtime.
And the big issue where it really prevailed and why that police department is still there at that town, safety issues, citing exactly that. So, and then it certainly helped when a police officer next door was in a brutal beating by himself at I won't say it was a Circle K, but certainly in a bad situation. So, common sense, statistics, the gentleman coming up, throwing those statistics out, literally math and algorithms, exciting exactly, what Steve just said. That saved that police department. That saved that police, and people said, we want to be safe, we want to feel safe in our town. So, and we're willing to pay for it.
That's what it's gonna come down to is what people want
Exactly.
versus what we're gonna pay for.
Yeah, and also just to discern of the 10, how many are actually patrol. Right, there's just a lot of factors to
Yeah.
unpack in
It's
that.
probably 11 if you're including Axel. Technically he's an officer, but.
Do you guys have any other questions of me? I'll look forward to seeing you guys again. Any follow-up? Here we are, like I said, we're in 25 and we got good math for 25 too.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I'm saying it's easy for me to say here, time to change your plan. Time to change your plan.
We
Gonna give you-
appreciate your input.
Gonna give you a couple of, but I just don't hold back. What good is it gonna be if I'm not gonna hear and just like put it on the table and that's it. I wouldn't be doing you any favors. But I'd like to give you a couple of fund balance policies, start that conversation over the next few months, because that's something you definitely wanna make yours, so.
In your experience, how many years has the maximum savings rate on a municipality only been stuck at 5%?
I'd have to go back and it's been a while. It's been a while, more than 10.
More than 10
I'd
years.
say
it's been
easily
stuck
more
at
than
5%.
10, yeah.
Is it reasonable to think that with the removal last year of the municipal levy, it's possible to increase that 5%?
When you say the municipal levy, you're talking like LD1 cap
Yeah.
or, so a couple of these, I'd still say that there's an LD1 cap, that exists out there, just doesn't exist in law and on paper anymore. But that 5%, remember that overlay, that's designed for assessing errors, abatements, things like that. So that's why I always say that I'm not sure that rate's gonna change again, because you're always gonna have that, and who's gonna experience the most? Oceanfront communities, for sure. I'd argue with that 5%. You wanna talk about the state laws, hey, where are you at in a revaluation? I know that's a dirty word in the word of government, but where are you at right now? I know you had one a while ago, but I'll tell you, that 5%, you better hope it's at least 5%. You better use every bit of it if you ever go through a reval, I can tell you that right now, especially in Oceanfront community. So I look forward to coming back again. So I'll try to be as entertaining, as enthusiastic as I am tonight. But this town's in good shape. You got a lot of good things going on in this town. And like I said, I just think it's time reset. Just reset, rethink, and reallocate, really. So that's it.
All right.
Thanks for your time.
Anytime.
Appreciate
So,
it.
hey, is your door unlocked? My laptop's still up there. I'm gonna throw this back in there too. Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
More from the council or?
I really like the idea of getting them engaged with the financial algorithms in November-ish, as we agreed to take a look at Orland and Verona Island, the fire EMS and that kind of stuff. And I don't even know if maybe we should take a look at animal control with all the municipalities that we serve and 3 counties now going on. It's I just, when he starts talking financial algorithms, he really got my attention. So
I agree.
I think,
I wanted to ask him how many years back, cause he seemed very detail oriented. He knew what we're living with here in Bucksport, right down to the, I was really impressed with,
Ron's been here since well into Roger Raymond, so he knows our stuff quite
Yeah.
well.
What are the chances of, our finance committee, we do finance committee as needed, what are the chances of scheduling a finance committee once a month and having, an update to discuss where we're actually at? We have baselines now. What are the chances, so none of us are surprised by any of this at any point in time? We have, either our first or second council meeting in the month is always a scheduled finance committee, so we can review where we're actually at and what's going on.
Preferably on the same day as council,
Right.
because if I end
Yes.
up stepping into economic development, it
Yeah.
might be just,
Yeah, we usually do finance committee before a council meeting.
Yep, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Is that gonna be okay with our finance director to do just a monthly balance? I mean, we get it for businesses and private stuff, can we get just to check in? That's how it used to be, years ago, that's how it was. And that went away for a little while, and I think now's probably a good time to get that up and running again. Yeah.
You want
That'd be
the
good.
first meeting?
Which I honestly don't know, whichever you think. Sometimes, we have different patterns we set seasonally, things fluctuate a lot. What do you, I'm open to whatever we think is best, probably the first meeting, because we could talk about the previous month's numbers.
Correct.
That would probably be the most accurate.
Yep.
Alright, that'd be good.
How long of a meeting?
half an hour.
Yeah, schedule it for a half hour to start for a little while, because we're gonna have some things to fine tune as we get rolling. Hopefully a year from now, we can trim those down to just 15 minutes, just for the check-in, but
We can do that.
give us a baseline.
and once we get settled, I think we could probably do it quarterly. once
I was
it's
gonna
smoothed
suggest
out.
quarterly after, because that's sort of in sync with the books really, right?
Potentially,
Quarterly reports.
you know,
I mean,
Well,
Monthly's fine.
we'll find out how unproductive those turn out to be after a while,
Yeah.
see if
Yeah.
it's a moot point, or
Yeah.
I think just having the numbers in front of us so that
Yeah.
we're not surprised about anything.
And it'll give the public another opportunity to come and engage with the finances. I hope a lot of people watched. I have no sense of people, but I think it was helpful to sort of dig into some of the questions, because just to help the public understand sort of what's behind a lot of the things, and to understand, like, the public safety is one that came up to me a lot in the community, and so asking questions just so public can understand it as well, and the marina.
Anything else from the public?
Yes, why my taxes went up $1,800 this year. I got my tax bill and it went up to $7,123.
And I'm on the same boat, mine, 36%.
The largest contributing factor to that, which is what we've discussed throughout tonight, is for the past 10 years, since the mill closed, the town has used a combination of fund balance and reserves to keep the mill rate low, to try and keep taxes low. They did that every year since the mill closed.
Okay.
This past year, last year, there was $1.4 million in both fund balance and reserves that was used to offset taxes. And as we've discussed tonight, we are no longer in a financial position to do that. And so what that did was created a $1.4 million hole that was filled through taxation. So that's certainly there was 6%, 7% on the school, 14% on the county. Our expense budget went up 5.9%, but 66% of the overall increase was a result of no longer being able to use that fund balance and reserves to offset taxes.
Okay, that won't be so bad.
Alright, well, 3 years ago, they went up the same thing, 30%.
The increase 3 years ago was a result of when COVID happened, the housing market went nuts.
Right.
And we are required to value properties at a certain level as to where the state expects us to be based on sales in Bucksport. And at that time, we had fallen, I can't even remember what we had fallen to.
Well, my
approaching 60.
valuation went up
60%.
108% that year.
We had fallen to 60% as to where the state said we should be. And so cost schedules were updated across the board back then to get us back in line to where the state said that we should be. So that was the significant increase that happened 3 years ago.
Which was 108% for me. And then the next year, they went, valuation stayed the same, but my taxes went up 4%. Next year, valuation went up 20%, which was this year, which increased with the mill rate going up 17%, that increased my taxes 36% this year. Well, that to me looks like the budget must have went up 36%.
No.
Part of that was
I have to agree with what they're,
Before you.
my new tax bill is higher than yours, but what couldn't me, and I'm not saying we need an answer tonight, maybe think about this, and I think the town council meeting that's coming up next Thursday, we'll probably see a couple more people here in the audience, but the thing that got me this year is their numbers are correct. The mill rate increased 17%, and that was after going through a budget season where we took a chainsaw, a scalpel, everything. We saw in the eyes of the department heads what they went through, and the beginning of the year started at 11%, looked like things were gonna be at, and we got it down to just under 6%. That's just on the municipal side. This other two components, we're paying, as Jacob just said, town manager just said, the county went up over, we're paying them an additional $40,000 over last. And the school budget that Jen and I, Councilwoman Jen and I, sat in on up there. That night, there's 8,500 people that live in the school district. That night, up at the Performing Arts Center, there were 30 people showed up in the room. And they reviewed 20 articles in 30 minutes, and they spent $20 million. Wow. Yeah, wow is right. You know, so, but the thing I'm struggling with right now is 2-3 years ago, there was the mandate of the reevaluation by the state. And that's when our taxes went up considerably. And now, without warning, and that's where I'm getting my emails from, and my cell phone has lit up, without warning, there were reevaluations that took place. My reevaluated number went up $66,000. So in the end, my tax rate jumped 33%. And it's that reevaluation that, who authorized that? That's what I'm struggling with, and that's the type of email. And I don't need an answer tonight. I think we need to maybe peel back the onion and see where that came from. And then, but anyway, that's the kind of email that I've been getting. And not tonight to put it, but maybe by next week we can think through, or maybe I'm I'm
How
out
do
of,
they even reevaluate?
that's the burr under my saddle that I've got and others have reported to me.
I've
And
never
I'm
had
sorry, I
anybody
didn't mean to
come
cut you
and
guys
assess
off, go
my
ahead.
house or anything, there's never, since I built it in like 16, there's never been anybody there, look, it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, 28 by 40 cabin with 2 lofts. I don't have power, I live off grid, and they're saying the building is worth $325,000 now, when 4 years ago it was 129. It just, how do they value when they don't even come look at something, don't even know what it is?
Sir, you have the option, I think, to have your evaluation checked, and I would encourage you to call the town during business hours tomorrow and get connected to that POP, because
They're
you,
not open Friday, right?
Monday,
Monday.
sorry, yes,
Right.
Monday, because they work 4 10-hour days, so
Right.
they still work a 40-hour week, but just Monday through Thursday. I would check in with the town on Monday, if that makes sense.
You wanna speak to the tax assessor.
Tuesday.
on Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay.
Can I insert something into that? Got a friend that lives on my street that had the tax assessor or appraiser or something come look at his house. And said the house is worth a certain amount of value on the tax bill. It jumped from like 600,000 to close to $1 million. This year's taxes went up $5,000. And tax assessor or whoever, appraiser, whatever, they came and said, we're not taxing you on what it's worth. We're taxing you on what it would cost to rebuild it.
Or
And he's-
sell it,
To sell it or rebuild it?
to rebuild it, no, he told me to sell it. It's based on real estate appraisal. And I don't, whatever, she told me not to swear, but. So
I've lived on
Good job.
Jacob Bucks Pond Road for
Yeah.
40 years, and I've never had a tax person in my house. Never in 40 years. I don't know if they come and walk around the house or not. If they did, they'd probably get bit by the dog.
Somebody told me that they go Google Earth and they look and they can assess a house from Google Earth. No. Which I don't know either, but that's what somebody told me, that, you know, like especially on organized townships, the state does it to assess properties,
think
I don't know.
If you reach out to the tax assessor on Tuesday, I think he could probably direct you to a way to sort of contest your current assessment with the assessor, not necessarily, the town's not sort of doing the assessment, but there is an avenue for you to look at that. And then perhaps the tax assessor could tell you what goes into a property valuation formula. I think that would be, because if I try and tell you, I'm probably gonna get it wrong, because,
Right.
yeah.
Yep, sounds good.
Well,
Jacob,
I think tonight's just a flavor of what we're going to be
Well,
experiencing.
I thought tonight was the night, so that's why I'm here.
I thought he was, yeah.
Well, let me just interject a couple things and just give you guys a blanket thought process, okay? Because everything that we're talking about tonight could have taken effect 10 years ago, instead of it taking effect now.
Correct.
But the money that we've saved has held the line. And holding the line, our economic development and the town has tried very hard to get businesses to come here and help restore that 43% tax base that we had. And we have had multiple businesses
Leave,
not do what they said they were gonna do
right.
and show up here to help us.
They were over in the town of Allen in the
just-
school building.
I'm not talking about that specific,
Okay.
I'm talking about in general,
Okay,
multiple
alright.
scenarios and examples. Since those are not there to contribute to our tax base, this is where we are at. And we no longer have the money to hold the line like we have in the past. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that blanket thought process will help anything else that we have moving forward. We did very well. We tried to do business with people that didn't do what they said they were gonna do, and that hurt us.
Right.
Which, one of my things was, I've talked to a bunch of people and their tax went up 20%, 25%, 23%. Mine
Nobody's
went
went up,
36%.
nobody's went up the same.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like nobody's went the same, why would it be,
Can I,
you know,
Correct-
everybody's value will go up the same.
Correct me if I'm,
Luke, can you go ahead?
so I'm not an assessor, but I've worked with them quite a bit. So what I can tell you is that, first of all, the last time we did an actual full value reval, Jeff Fitzgerald was the assessor. And he did visit every property.
Except for mine.
I
And-
guarantee you he visited them. And I can prove it because the photos are on the server. He took photos of every property.
Outside,
Outside, he went,
never inside.
he had cards that he asked if he could see inside. It's not mandatory, and a lot of people chose not to. Some chose to let him in. So in some cases, there's photos of the inside, in some cases, there's not. But there are photos on the computer server of every property on the outside from when he did that reval. That was, I'm gonna say 6 or 7 years ago. Does that sound about right? I don't know.
Yeah.
18.
So, then when there's a new house built, I try and take photos and stuff so that if the assessor has questions about the outside, I have that. And then there's the building permits that have the dimensions and that kind of stuff, and hopefully floor plans if they're given to me. So we try and get that as accurate as possible, and we always tell people, if you don't think it's accurate, check, you know. And also, the reason we do demo permits and stuff is stuff's gone, you could still be getting taxed for something that's not there anymore. But when it came time for the reassessment, it wasn't a reval, so it's not the same as going out and visiting every property again. The goal of assessors typically is to try and do a reval every 10 years. And it's a big job. It's not something you can do easily. Usually they have to have additional staff because they have to visit every one of these properties, and it's a big thing. So what they do is they have what they call cost schedules. So every type of house has its own cost schedule. So if you have a ranch or a raised ranch or a cape or a colonial, they're all different cost schedule. And they use the real estate information that they get on, so maybe ranches are not selling for as much as capes are selling for right now. So a ranch value might not go up as much as a cape would, because the cost schedules are based on what's going on in the real estate market. And then on top of the cost schedule, each one of your properties has grading in there, almost like back when you were in school. So your finishes, like on your friends, they're high end, really nice finishes, they're probably at an A. And most people are at what they have as average or C. And then if we go out and we see a place that's really run down and in poor shape, we take it down as low as we can. There is a bottom, and sometimes I've seen some places that are pretty bad, and I'm like, can't we go any lower? And I'm like, the only way to get it lower is if they demo it, then we can take it off. But there's a bottom, that's as low as you can go. So we did those cost schedule. I helped with going around and helping her find some of the properties and stuff at the time, but we did the cost schedule things, and we got it from 60% back to 100%. And this year, the current assessor told me we were back down to 83%. So what happens is if you get down to a certain percentage, the state will stop giving us our cost sharing revenue at the same percentage as what we would get. So that's why the state says, you've got to get your assessments up or we're going to withhold that. The other thing they can do is they can decrease our homestead exemptions. So 2 years ago or 3 years, whenever it was that we did the 60% up to 100, we were going to lose, right now our homestead's 25,000, it was going to go down to 10 because if we didn't update our cost schedules. So again, I'm not the assessor, and this is what I've learned from working with them, but those are some of the ways that they've done it. So this year, again, he updated the cost schedules. But no, he did not go and visit the properties. Nobody is claiming they did, and we didn't do a reval. We updated the cost schedules to bring the types of houses and those grades up to where the real estate market says they're selling at. And again, if you think it's wrong, if you think your house might be listed as a B as far as the interior finishes and stuff, and you want to show him that, hey, I just have pine boards and I don't have mahogany, then bring him in and show him, and maybe that'll bring it down some if he changes the grade or whatnot. But, and also, look at your tax card and make sure that if it says you've got 3 sheds and you only have 1 because you've got shed permits, but you never told me you got rid of the other ones, you could be getting taxed for structures you don't have. So there are some things like that, but I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of how they did what they did. I don't know whose decision it was to say this year we're gonna bring them back up to 100%, but I know we were down to 83.
Well, and the truth is, real estate's doubled, if not tripled, in the past 7 years.
It has, and I can say that, I'll be honest with you, mine went up 40%. My taxes were 4,100 last year, and they're 5,750 this year. My house is valued after my homestead exemption at 371, and I would not sell it for that. Now, I'm not saying everybody's in the same boat, but I wouldn't sell my house for less than 450 to 500, which is crazy to think about because I paid 138,000 for it. But that's the market today.
And
That's really helpful, Luke, thank you.
And I think this is a major national issue too, that I do not agree with these evaluations nationwide. These houses are not worth
No.
what they're saying they're worth.
Right, I just have a ranch. We have a ranch.
And I think that's the problem, like, we have sort of the current debt for the houses we're living in.
Yeah.
We're not intending to sell because we love our town, but we could technically sell our houses for mint. And we're sort of evaluated on that market, which is, we don't have control over that, unfortunately.
Just to get you like me, think you own a house, well, it's $520 a month for taxes. I'm renting it off the town, basically, it's never gonna be mine. If I don't pay tax 2 years, you come take it.
Takes 3 years.
3 years, or whatever, but I mean, it's like, when a 1-bedroom, 1-bath house, your taxes are $6,200 a year, it's ridiculous, I think. But it would, when they were 3,200 4 years ago, now they're 6,200.
I just think you should do what Luke suggested and come and talk to the
Land was valued
tax
at
assessor.
69 4 years ago, and now they're saying it's worth 76.
Are you on water?
Bog, yeah, alligator
Yeah, so
pond.
that's, yeah.
Swamp that I had to stay 250 feet away from to build.
I have a view of Mud Pond. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Waterfront property.
Yes, waterfront.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well,
Okay, anyway, next week should be interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
next week is the day, same place, same time,
Alright,
different time.
So, is it 7?
7
I thought
o'clock.
tonight was
The
7.
regular meeting starts at 7 on next Thursday night.
Next Thursday, yep.
it was the minister.
All right,
Okay.
if everybody's okay, I think we're gonna take a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Opposed?